All right, so welcome everyone. So today I'm really excited to introduce a presentation called Koha is a Gift, presented by David DeGita here, who is a systems librarian supervisor at McKinney Public Library System, which is a library system in Texas. So whenever you're ready, David, feel free to take us away.
Cool. So yeah, I in a library in Texas. Koha is pretty awesome. I come from a good background of doing systems stuff for other libraries as well with proprietary software. So like a Circe Dynex or Polaris, those type of ILSs as well. So coming to Koha was kind of new to me because it is open source. So I kind of had to like really kind of figure out what's happening with this kind of stuff. So I've been kind of digging into like Linux stuff too. So learning that on the fly because I was mostly Windows based before I started this. And I've been here for almost 2 years now. So sticking in there, hanging in there, doing that thing. So we'll get started. That's about me. And I've traveled a bunch, by the way. Been all over the place. We're too many states to count. I kind of think I have wanderlust or too nomadic, I think, in a sense. But cool. So Koha is a gift. That is actually a real thing because it is a Maori word, and the Maori word means gift because this was founded in New Zealand um, as a way to help with libraries there. Also, it was a part of because Y2K was about to happen way back in the day, and they were trying to figure some stuff out to keep the libraries going. Um, Koha is spelled with lowercase k. Many people don't know that, but a lot of documents we use uppercase it, which is fine, but realistically, it's lowercase. And it is an integrated library system software. So what that means is when you go to your Stanford library on campus there, they are using some type of platform in the background to uh, store the collection of their items and make it public facing to you as you search a catalog. But also there's a staff side that they use to input the data and all of the records and all of that kind of stuff and make it more manageable to keep track of everything. And there's also other modules that are involved in it, which we'll go over as well. So, and the best part is it's open source. Yay, it's free. You could literally download this right now from their website, put it on a server or your computer if you can handle it. I actually have it run a test server running on a Raspberry Pi, so an SSD card. So it's that configurable and that lightweight as well, which is super cool. So we'll continue on. And here's some of the things you should know. It's comprised mostly of a staff intranet and a OPAC, which is a public catalog. So when you go to your library and you search and you log into your account and you want to put books on hold, you would use the OPAC. And then it also has a lot of customizable languages. So it is based on Bootstrap 5. You can use jQuery. You can use JavaScript, but we don't like to say JavaScript in the Koha community for some reason. And it's heavily on CSS, which is really awesome. So you can do a lot of customizations to Koha. When you first install it, it's pretty bare bones. But you can change color features, you can add new icons, you can edit menu links, you can really get into some cool stuff. If you have someone that knows good UX and can do a lot of front end developing, you can do a lot of good stuff with it, which is really cool. Which we do have someone on my staff that is really awesome at UX. So I'm very happy that I have her on my team because she has done some real groundbreaking stuff for Koha, which has been awesome. And you can also contribute new code because it is a community. It is open source. It is led by a group of people that want to see this ILS grow and become stronger and bigger. And just let the library world know, like, hey, you don't have to go with these proprietary software companies to use your ILS. You can actually do it on your own or have hosting as well. That's a thing we'll talk about too, because some people don't want to house their servers in house anymore. It's just too expensive or upscaling is hard, that kind of stuff. So there are companies that can help with that, and it's international as well, which is pretty awesome. um, I put some requirements on the side there. You can kind of see like that what it's running off of, um, kind of basic stuff. uh, so we'll continue on. So these are the modules that are inside Koha. You have a circulation. So think of check in, check out of materials, books or DVDs or 3D printers, whatever you're letting lawnmowers, if libraries have that, you can check that out. You have your patron search. That's where you can see your account. So David Dagada, I will be in a patron record under that section. You have cataloging, which is mark bibs and items. That's what librarians use to um, classify the items they're actually putting in the Koha ILS into the database. And then there's reports, because we obviously are data driven, that we want to make sure we know how many people are checking things out, what is the highest circ rate. You can just get in the nitty gritty of anything you really want with those reports. So, and it runs off SQL, so that's pretty nice. Tools, you can create, slips and notices, batch modifications, all that kind of stuff, which helps you with the job, the daily job, basically, of using this. And then there's administration settings, kind of get under the hood and change things. So there's other options too. There's acquisitions. There's an e-resource management system, serials, and authorities. A lot of people don't really use those inside Koha, just because it's just when they put it out of the box, they kind of use the 6 modules and customize those as much as they can, and worry about the other things if they really need to do those. So if you were thinking about doing this on your own, or if you're a library that's watching, you can kind of start with those 6 and then work your way through it, which is pretty nice. This is what it looks like. I'll show you a live view near the end, but this is out of the box. You were able to see the modules at the top there. You have all the different search bars right there, which is nice. So you can type anything inside that search bar, which is keyword. So it will ping. So if I type a name in there, it'll automatically start to find that person's name. And then I can check out right from there, or check things in, renew things. And if I click the catalog, it'll start to search the catalog. So I can find the item on our side, and then edit or place it on hold, or see if it's the correct one they're looking for, all that kind of stuff. And then you have the markers here in the middle. They're just another way, another breadcrumb to get to where you want it to go inside Koha, which is nice. And then you have the top one. Don't worry, the Koha Ghosty is not default. That's custom. So do not take that. No, I'm just joking. This is the OPAC. So this is the part that you guys would see if you went to your library. This is where you would type in. Right now, we are looking up Sonic the Hedgehog. It's made a comeback in the library world, so kids are all about it right now. So you'd be able to search that, and then it gives you links to, everything's linked, which is great. There's a lot of hypertext with inside Koha that you can jump around and get to different parts, information and material inside Koha, which is great. There's also icons as well. So synthetics data, cover data, if you're more visual, that will show up there as well. I don't have that set up on this. This was taken from my test server. So, which is nice, because you can spin up a test server on a Raspberry Pi and not break the bank when you're trying to actually break it. So here's the cool part. Here's some code snippets. So you have the CSS, which up there, this is just showing some of the little edits we did to the, there's a news section on the left-hand side of the main page that you can make edits to. So we kind of did some of that, some scrolling bar hiding stuff. But this thing goes on and on. You can, I only took a short snippet. And then the bottom part is actually where you can put your jQuery and your JavaScript snippets. So this right here is what we did to customize our menu, because we wanted to add more resources that were external to link out to, such as like our time clock, or we have a discovery layer, which is a OPAC, but just a lot more nicer, more features in it. So we have that link in there. We have, we have stuff to our metabase, which is it's a tools, it's a report tool site that we use, and more data visualization. So we have that, and so it's anything you can really think of, like different spreadsheets we want people to get into. This is pretty cool. So we do like that feature. So that's in action. So that's where we modified with that JavaScript jQuery is the right here. So we added, instead of like the systems interface, we had to click through 6 clicks or something, and that just got very tiresome when you're constantly updating code and you're trying to get back to that page. We just made a super shortcut into it, and we're able to do that. Whereas most other ILSs, you won't really have front end access to that kind of stuff very easily anyway. You'd have to have, training from them, maybe some API training, different stuff like that to have access to that. Um, but here we can just spin it up, throw it inside that code, and then we're off and running. So you can see we have our schedule in there, some holds lists, that kind of stuff. And you can also password protect this stuff too. So like our system and interface, even though you're logged in, if you don't have permissions, you can't get into that, which is nice. So it's not like you put something in there and then everyone has access to it, which is cool. So there's some segmentation, isolation in there. Uh, and then there's just fun stuff, right? So you can, if you're dealing with code and all of everyone that does UX or any of this backend development stuff, it's like up to you. It's like unlimited. Like the funniest stuff you want to do or the serious stuff you want to do, you can do either of it. So we did something funny. We made it a party mode inside our catalog, just for the staff side because we didn't want our patrons, freaking out or anything. So this is where it will actually throw emojis on the screen, based on the month. So only on the staff side, you have to enable it as a staff member. We didn't want, everyone to have it preset because we know some people might be weird about it, but it's fun. And I'll show you that live, what that looks like. So just fun stuff like that. So if you want to, create, cool new web links or just new like graphical interface stuff, you can do all that stuff in here. You can pull reports into different modules and link things together. It's really whatever your mind thinks of, you can do. It's pretty cool. Um, so there's an example of how it looks. So anytime I go into my page, it'll throw this stuff up like confetti. So anyway, just fun stuff. So another cool feature is it is an international community, and there's also a US localized chapter as well. So what that all that means is you have friends everywhere to help you with Koha, which is really cool. And in there's conferences. So there is the international conference, which that is actually usually in September. This year it's going to be in Montreal, which is awesome. And it's open to everyone, as long as you either can do a membership at the time or whatnot. It's really not that expensive. Um, and then there's the US version as well, which will actually be in August in Texas, outside Austin, in Round Rock, if you want to make that. But and that's where you can like see people that are also using Koha sites and what they're doing and all the cool, neat stuff. I've learned so much from those conferences on how to tweak things inside our catalog, inside our intranet. There's also community. They actually just switched recently from Slack to Mattermost, which is an open source platform, which is really nice. Kind of getting that cohesion together. There's also a European version of this, which is PTF's Europe. They host you in the support here. So that's the European version. They're the ones that actually did all the work for the Mattermost switch over from Slack, which was really great. So I really give kudos to those guys. There's also bugs, right? Open source, tons of bugs every day. You're going to find stuff that you're breaking, fixing, workarounds, all that stuff is done in here, which is great. So there's a huge community fixing stuff, working on things, trying to get things going. Yeah, really great. And then there's the hosting, right? So we're actually hosted by Water. Great group, always looking to help develop things, do things, keep us running on their servers. And just if you have questions or something breaks, it's great to just shoot a ticket and they're there to help you. Same with PTS Europe. So if you're on the international side there, and then the other areas, more of, I guess it's European as well. I haven't really used them much, but they're great guys as well too. And then the last one is just more like their GitHub, the Koha GitHub. So you can download code there and see what's been spun up and changed and all that kind of stuff, versions. And then the wiki as well, which is great because that gives you like access to like reports that people have created that you could merge into your stuff, different tools, different plugins, all that kind of stuff. Really great stuff. I love Koha the most because of the community that it's built on. And that's the other thing too, right? So if you wanted something in Koha and you're like, hey, I want to develop this, I want this to be a part of Koha, the community has to agree on it. Like, because you don't want to fork and make, splits inside the code and all this other stuff. So it's really nice to see. And for the most part, everyone really does agree on a lot of the things if it's meant to really help the community and grow the ILS, um, which is great. So there's always that kind of perspective with Koha. So I've been digging that a lot and learning a lot from people um, about that. So. And then we got some takeaways here. So this link will actually send you to the site where you can actually download it and do all of that. And then the wiki on how to do the installs and the commands. Um, and then here over to the side here, I have some of the release features. So it's kind of almost every 6 months they push out a release. Um, and it goes, so right now we're on 2305 if you were to download and install it on your own and wanted to run it. Um, so about May 15th, I'm going to start looking on the pulling from the Koha GitHub to see if 2311 is out, or sorry, 2311 is out on the test. It's not, you can use it live now, but I will be looking for the next version, which should be 2405. So I should start looking for that one. And then I can put it on the test server and kind of get it ready before we push it out from the final prod, because our host Bywater doesn't push it out on the day that it comes out. They kind of wait a little bit, obviously, because they're testing things, bugs and stuff like that, to make sure it's a smooth rollout for all of the other libraries that are using Koha. Um, so that's pretty nice. And then yeah, it's pretty cool. So before we ask these questions, let's jump to the live screen real quick. And this is actually the other really awesome thing about Koha. Everything is web-based. Like if you were to use a different ILS, you would have to download a client, put it installed on your computer, do all that stuff. Do you know how bad those updates are? When you have to like go in there and be like, oh man, I got to uninstall, reinstall, I got to ask IT to do this stuff. Where this is all web-based, you just clear the cache on your browser and you're doing stuff. So here's just what a basic account looks like. I have this is a test. We have a barcode. This is actually scannable. So at our library, we're fully mobile. So when you come in, we have iPads and scanners everywhere. So if you're ready to check out, we actually just scan the card from the barcode, and there's actually no physical cards here anymore. We do everything digital, which is awesome. I feel like that's where everything's going. But you'll see here's that little party mode that I put, just an attribute. So if I was to refresh this, um, you'll see anyway, that's some of the cool little stuff you can do with it. You can see a lot of different notices and things like that. You can see the holds we have here. So, you can track everything. You can put messages in there if patrons are doing stuff, things like that. So, but it's pretty nice. And then here's the search thing. So if I was to actually start searching something like David it'll actually start to pull pretty quickly. Or I could switch to the catalog, it's still there, and then I could search and show that. And then here's some of our stuff here that we have, so we can see our different catalogs, all that kind of stuff. More features, this kind of stuff here. You can do searching, all that kind of jazz. It's pretty nice. If you had more libraries than one, you could switch between and toggle between your different branches, which is cool, and a lot of permissions. So pretty nice. And then I wanted to show, yes, we will go back into here. So anything else you guys have questions on maybe? That was basically what Koha is, it's a powerful tool for an open source tool. One that I think gets kind of not as much shine as some of the other stuff at library conferences, but I think they're gaining steam. I think the library world is slowly catching up to be like, hey, open source is where it's at, especially with how budgets go now and funding and things like that. It just makes for a really good tool to have, especially if you have someone that knows code and wants to do those things, or actually wants to learn that stuff. It's a great training ground to do all that. But again, remember, like you don't have to be a super computer wizard to do any of this stuff. There's hosting. They will help. You can be as hands-on as you want or hands-off as you want, which is wonderful. I'm preferably learning how to be more hands-on. And trust me, I slaughtered our test server in the beginning. Like I was like, command this, command that, and I was like, okay, I need help, people. I need someone. But you just walk through it, and it's great. So, but yeah, I don't know. Maybe Stanford might want to go open source with their library catalog. I don't know. I'm sure they have some great UX people that can slice up a cool OPAC. It'll look really good. But yeah, is there any other questions you guys had about like something I didn't cover or something you wanted to see? I can't show you everything in the catalog just because of like personal data, things like that, and just like hidden features that I don't want people to see. Um, but yeah.
Out of curiosity, what would the process look like if, say, Stanford wanted to make the move from their current ILS provider to, say, Koha?
Yeah. So what I would first say is whoever is on staff, spin up a test server, you know, see how they like it, do that kind of stuff. And then after that, you can actually reach out to the community and either you can self-host it. So that's you do it all on your own. There's the wiki, there's, install manuals. But if you want to be hosted, which I highly suggest that just because we're just so interconnected globally and there's just so much going on. Um, you know, different IP sets, there's SIP integrations, there's all this other type of stuff. And I would say go Bywater since you are in the US, and they would walk you all the way through it, how to migrate everything, how to, take your current database into Koha, map everything, make sure everything's correctly. They'll send trainers out to you. Man, I should work for Bywater. But no, but that would probably be the best process. Also reach out to libraries in the community, especially academics. You can kind of get a view of like how they're using it, and get a better footing on, should we move forward with some of this stuff? Would be the best work to do research on.
Awesome.
Yeah. But yeah.
Is this integrated into the front end too for so like end users can make use of searching for things? Is it like a full like library catalog system?
Yeah, yeah. So the OPAC part is where the front end user can actually search, put holds, do all of that stuff. Um, they obviously can't edit any code or anything like that there. They just have access to the materials that are in the database that pulling from it.
Yeah.
So, yep. And that's all built into Koha. Like most places, it's like that's an add-on module that you have to have that feature, which is it's nice that they have that already caked in. So, yeah.
Yeah, it just goes to show if you can imagine it, it exists somewhere on the internet because there's so many solutions for so many different things, and I had no idea there was something for libraries on it. Not that I'm affiliated with any libraries, but I think it's pretty cool. Um,
Yeah, and like you said, like it's whatever you think. Like the coolest stuff. They have a self-checkout module inside Koha. It's pretty plain, but if you can like our person on staff just like put a background in there, put a Google Slides at the bottom so you can promote like programs and stuff. Change printer modules that actually would show error messages instead if they were messing up with their card or something. It's a lot of cool stuff you can do when you really break it down, especially with this. And then the CSS, good Lord, like you can just go wild with that stuff and just change pretty much everything. So you can put audio sounds in there if you want. So if your staff are checking things in and they're not paying attention to like the visual cues alerts, you can put like Legend of Zelda, error message, and it'll freak them out, but they'll know there's an error message happening. So you can do lots of neat stuff like that inside there. So yeah.
yeah, I think it's interesting that I'm a developer and programmer, and I think they're using Perl as the back
Yes.
end, and that's something that people don't use very often nowadays, especially with such a large project. But I just found that interesting. They haven't diverted since 1999. They kept with it.
Yeah. Uh, Anything else you guys want to know about? I don't. Yeah.
Out of curiosity, do you know how many library systems are currently using Koha?
They do have a list inside the community. It's pretty big, especially internationally.
Mhm.
It's very huge. A lot of countries use it as their main kind of library
Oh, wow.
system. Yeah. I remember we went to one of the conferences, and there was guys from Germany there, guys from the UK, like just all over the place representing. So um, I'm actually going to be the one that's in Montreal this year is the first international one that I'll be going to. So I'm sure there'll be even more people from like, Saudi Arabia, like all these different places that use it. Um, so pretty cool.
That's really cool that I think it's really interesting and cool that it's open source. And, I assume that most other ILS providers are not open source.
Correct, correct. There's a lot of like, there's paywalls there for sure on a lot of that stuff. And just, a lot of stuff's hidden that you can't get to. Whereas here it's just open door. If you want to change it up, slice it up, you can do it. Which is pretty nice. Yeah. Um, yeah, that's about it though. That's about all I have on Koha. It's a sweet gift for everybody. So if you want it, you can unwrap it, do what you want with it. You can even make your own little ILS to, see how many, your own book, your own personal bookshelf or your own personal record shelf, whatever you want to do. It's because it's a database in a sense. So
Yeah, I was just thinking that you could install it and catalog all the books in your house and stuff.
yeah. I mean, you could do
Your friend wants to borrow one, you mark it in there, and then you're going to get it back.
That's right. They can't get away with it. They'll get fines on it,
Yeah.
You can accrue money from it.
Get some interest off of it.
Yeah, totally. Cool. Good
Yeah.
stuff.
There's any more questions, feel free to pop them in the chat. And if not, I assume, is there a website that people can check out? I'm sure just Koha,
Yes.
we're able to search it and find out
Yeah.
more. There we go. Look at that. Final takeaways ahead of me.
Koha community. And there's tons of stuff in there. I did want to show this too. So let me go back here. This is the actual site, kohacommunity.org. And then under support, if you go to community support, down here is where you can get the chat and join in and actually see people are actually using it. It actually has what's really cool about this, because they switched from Slack to the Mattermost. I think if I click on it, I'll log into my account. Yes, maybe. Yeah, there it goes. So it actually has the IRC bridge in there, which is really cool. So all the developers, before we didn't really have access, you had to actually log into the IRC to get this stuff, but it's actually filtered into it. So you can see real people developing and coding and ask questions and throw it out to the community. Then you have the social aspect, so you can kind of see what people are talking about going on. And then more of just general talk in the community about what people are doing and things like that. So it's pretty nice. Pretty good setup. So a lot of people are in there right now. So I would suggest definitely, even if you don't spin it up, maybe going there and just seeing what people are talking about, if that's something that interests you even more. And I can't seem to go back. There we go. I think. Yeah. And there's other stuff here too as well. So I'll just go to the home page. And then you can see here. So 2311 is what it's on. And then in May, it'll go to 2405 in the naming convention. And you'll be able to you can download that as well. So, and there's all documentation here. You can go through demos. So actually, if you want to even see it, you can actually log into the OPAC side or the staff interface side, in which we were talking about. So there's, Bywater Solutions. So you can log into here and fiddle around with it without even having to spin it up. So all different ways to get to it, because it's all web-based and it's great. Looks good on mobile devices too, very scalable, which is awesome. So yeah, I'm going to
Daniel says, awesome stuff. Very interested in setting up Koha for a personal library. Yeah.
Sweet. There we go. Sounds good. Cool, man. Yeah, and if you have any questions, obviously join the chat or join one of the channels, and people can help you out further there as well. So yeah, I love to see what you come up with. I mean, if you can code and do all that stuff, it'd be great to see what you do. It'd be cool. It's always fun.
Haven't used Perl in about 15 years. But
yeah, I mean the Perl's there too, but then you can do a lot of stuff with in the jQuery and kind of edit. So which is nice.
Yeah, the website's nice. So one of the big problems you find with open source is like lack of documentation and stuff.
Mhm.
It's always the last thing people think of, and it's really
Yeah.
complete. Their website looks like.
Yeah, and I think they're trying to get even better with the documentation, and keep up with that as well. So it's always good to see that stuff. But yeah.
Great. Well, thank you so much. If there's any other questions, this is just really interesting, awesome stuff. I love to learn a little bit more about this, and especially interesting it's from New Zealand too, and learning a little bit more about the origin. So it sounds like there's a lot of capabilities for this, even if you want to do a personal library, but I am curious what Stanford uses as their back end.
I think it's OCLC's World Share, not 100% sure,
Mm,
but
okay.
I'm not. I saw Searchworks. I think maybe that's just their search. I don't know.
Mhm.
Then they have a
Yeah, I'm
separate
not sure.
request site,
Hmm.
maybe a bunch of things.
Because I
well, look,
assume, yeah.
yeah. But now that's cool. Off and running in the Koha world. I'm sure it's gonna just gobble you up, and you guys are gonna be all about it, just running around doing it. So that's what happened to me. I was like, this open source stuff. I don't know about this, and then I was all in. I was like, man, this is. I don't know if I can work with another ILS after this, and I just feel
Mhm.
like that's all I got now. It's like, wow. Um, but cool. Hey, thanks for asking all the questions and hanging out and learning some stuff today.
Yeah, of course. This was awesome. You did a really great job of walking us through all of this. It's just in a really interesting and engaging way. Love the party mode, by the way. Love what you're able to do with CSS. So really cool to see.
Thanks.
But
And
yeah,
then I don't know if I put oh, there we go. My email's on there. If you want to reach out or whatever, you can do that as well. So
that would be great. Awesome. I'll definitely reach out, and thank you so much.
yeah, no problem. Thanks for having me. It's been a joy.
It was great to meet you, and this will be posted and we'll be able to share it and have other people access it. So that's awesome.
Cool. Sweet.
All right. Thanks so much. It was
Like
great to meet you.
Take
Thanks.
care. Have a good day.
Bye-bye. Thanks. Bye.